5 things Arsenal must do in July if we are to be taking next season seriously. I think July is an incredibly crucial make or break month when it comes to the transfer market and preparing for next season. And so we're going to get into it. Now, before we do, if I could just ask you to subscribe. We're less than 500 subscribers away from 20,000, which is absolutely incredible. If you could like the video as well, I'd be massively grateful. And if I sound a bit nasally, a bit congested, I apologize. I've got a bit of a cold, but we're battling through it. You know, what a machine I am. First thing, sign a striker. Whoa, revolutionary. You know, this is what you come to this channel for. Outside the box thinking. No, look, there is a subtle difference here where I'm saying sign a striker in July. And when you watch the rest of the video, you will understand the subtle difference there. But of course, we know we need to bring in a striker. Now, on that, last night, it came out from Bild. RB Leipzig have lowered their asking price for Benjamin Sesko with 70 million euros and additional bonuses now more realistic. The German side want to deal sooner rather than later so that they can act in the summer transfer market. And this is going to be a running theme of the video, is the urgency that is going to hit at the start of July. Now, we have, over the last week or so, begun to get into gear, begun to start moving quickly, and that is important. But other clubs are going to look to do the same at the start of July as we move into the start of pre-season, effectively. And so the game of chicken that we've been playing with Leipzig and with Sporting and that they've been playing with us, I think is naturally going to come to a conclusion. And the fact that supposedly RB Leipzig are now willing to accept a lower fee is a testament to Andrea Berta's sturdiness and stubbornness to get this done, because we know that we are in the position of power here. But it isn't done yet, and that is crucial, and it does need to be resolved as quickly as possible. Now, we know Fabrizio Romano said the conversation for both Sesko and Gyökeres is still ongoing with daily contacts between all parties, but for sure Arsenal will sign a new striker at some point this summer. But like I said, it needs to be urgently. It needs to be in July. Now, we've also seen from the other side, Gyökeres, according to Talking Sporting, has been authorised by Sporting to report back on the 7th of July. Now, that is a week after everyone else. The squad comes back for pre-season on the 1st of July, but the player is allowed to take a few more days off. And again, that is as they seek to find a resolution to Victor Gyökeres this summer. Now, we've seen previously that he doesn't even want to stay at Sporting, etc., etc. But again, they are going to push for the solution to be found. Now, the reason that I think we need to sign the striker as soon as we possibly can is because of Jesus' injury. Fundamentally, going into next season, whether it is Gyökeres or Sesko, they need to be ready to start games. As much as I actually think it will be Kai Havertz that starts the opening game of the season up front, with the hamstring injury that he had and without Gabriel Jesus able to take any minutes, we can't go into the start of next season basically relying on Kai Havertz to play every game. And so we need the striker to come in and learn the ropes for as much of pre-season as possible. And pre-season starts, we go back into training for pre-season, I think on the 10th of July. So it does need to happen quickly. And I do think in the context of Arsenal, that role, that position is one that takes time to adapt to, one that is going to take a lot of coaching for them to understand their role. And so it needs to happen in July. And also, we cannot end up going into August in a position where we may need to do the two biggest signings of the summer. All of the work that we've done up to now has been good, but we know that there are two big boy signings we need to make, and I don't think you can rely on doing both of those in August. And speaking of that, that is the subtle difference when it comes to the second thing we must do this July, and that is to decide on the left winger. And the reason that I'm not saying we need to sign the left winger is because it may well not be possible. Now, this is the latest from Lasser. And by the way, that SER or SER have been very, very good this summer when it comes to Rodrigo, Mosquera, Zubamendi. They've been on top of it. Arsenal are one of the clubs with the most interest in Rodrigo. Real Madrid have set a price tag of 90 million euros. But this is the crucial bit. If a deal is to be done, it will be in August. And that is why I am not going to be unreasonable and say that we need to sign the left winger in July. Because if the club want to go for Rodrigo, that probably will happen in August. They're not going to finish up at the Club World Cup until mid-July. He'll then go on holiday, etc. I'm sure with a deal this big, the negotiating will take a while. But the crucial thing for me is that the decision needs to be made in July. And so if we are going to say, we are going for Rodrigo, we are going to take a little bit of a risk in the knowledge that it won't happen until August, but that is what we are going to do, we have to make the decision that we are absolutely attacking that signing. And what I mean by that is we need to know from Rodrigo, will you push to leave Real Madrid this summer? Because if he's not going to push to leave Real Madrid this summer, I don't think it happens. It is going to need him to push and Arsenal to push for a deal to be made. And so we have to have the absolute certainty that we can get it done in August. If we just kind of dilly-dally and, maybe we'll go for Rodrigo, but it's a difficult one to do. So, as we've seen this week, maybe we'll agree terms with Eze. If Eze is seen as a replacement option for Rodrigo and not an additional option with Rodrigo. But either way, it needs to be done. And if we're not going to go for Rodrigo, if the decision is made that we're not going for Rodrigo, then I think you should be looking to sign the player in July. Because the other options that we're looking to go for are available in July. And so in a dream world, we want these wrapped up. We don't want to do it in August. If you're going for Rodrigo, fine. If it has to happen in August, and there will be some people on two sides of this, right? That they'll, on one hand, be the sort of person that has always said Rodrigo is the type of world-class player we should be looking to sign, but they'll also now, because they're not patient enough, be saying that we have to bring in a left winger straight away. Rodrigo, you can't do both. You can't do him now, so you're going to have to wait if you want him. But that is the crucial thing to do in July. 3, start selling. This has been a problem for us, and this is something where, as impressed as I've been with Andrea Berta so far this summer, signing the striker and the left wing will be big, but the other thing is selling. And this was in January. This was in January, or maybe even late December, that the Athletic said this. This summer, Arsenal will be looking to permanently sell Sambi Lokonga and Reece Nelson. Nuno Tavares' loan move is also expected to be made permanent. That has now happened. Gabriel Jesus, Zinchenko, and Jakub Kiwior could all also exit. None of those have happened so far. And the reason that it starts becoming a problem is that, as we head into July, if you look at this as the kind of squad that we already have, Mosquera's in there. I know he isn't officially done yet, but I just feel like the way that's going to happen. If you want 2 players in every position, and you want to bring in Sesko, you want to bring in Rodrigo, and arguably you want to bring in a third attacking option as well, you're going to need to start selling players, because this list that you can see, that doesn't include Zinchenko. That doesn't include Tomiyasu. That doesn't include Gabriel Jesus. Now, Tomiyasu and Jesus, you can't sell this summer, right? The injuries that they've got mean that you can't sell them. But with Zinchenko, Fabio Vieira's not there. Sambi Lokonga's not there. These are players that will be taking up significant wages if you don't move them on. And as the summer goes on, it becomes harder to sell them. Teams are getting their business done in July to go into next season. But the other issue that you have, and Zinchenko is an example here, who's no longer in Arteta's plans and is ready to leave in the summer transfer window. The other problem that you have is that if you need the money from the Zinchenko sale to bring in another player, let's say Joral Hato, for example, is still on the cards, but it requires selling Kiwior and Zinchenko, which I think you'd have to do both if you wanted to bring Hato in. The longer you leave it, the harder it then becomes to both make the sale and make the signing. And the best example of that was last summer. We knew that we were going to need to sell Aaron Ramsdale. But by the time we did it, which was the final week of the transfer window, we left ourselves in this position where we then went to go and sign Joan Garcia, having sold Ramsdale. Now, we could never go and sign Garcia before we sold Ramsdale. We tried to negotiate something below his release clause, which was crazy. But ultimately, there was like 2 days left of the window when this was happening. And we ran out of time. And so make the sales in July. Establish how much you've made those sales for so that you know how much you can spend through July and August. And then we're in a good spot. Again, if you need to negotiate for Rodrigo, I don't want to be in the position in August where we're hearing, well, Arsenal want to do it, but they need to raise funds from the sales of. Because you also then get bent over a barrel by clubs that are going to sign those players, that know that you need to make the sales. So this is something that needs to happen quickly. It's also something where Andrea Berta needs to sell for good money. For a long, long time, we've not sold players for as much as we should do. Now, I think Zinchenko will underwhelm people in terms of how much he goes for. Reece Nelson probably the same. But we need to see some good money coming back in, and we need to see it quickly. The fourth thing, lining up the third forward signing. If we are going to make one, the plan needs to be in place. Now, David Ornstein said previously, looking for a number 9, whether it be Benjamin Sesko or Gyökeres. They also want a top quality wide player, Rodrigo, whoever. And they would also like some backup for Saka on the right. That's why they targeted Mbeumo. Now, I always found that Mbeumo one so interesting because of how expensive he was. And this is where maybe you look at it. Maybe Arsenal are planning on spending significant money on a third forward signing. Maybe that's why we're looking at agreeing terms with Eze. Is Eze the backup option to Rodrigo, or could we do him as well as Rodrigo? Now, that would be, as we said on a stream yesterday, utterly insane if we somehow pulled that off. But either way, the plan needs to be in place, because if we're waiting to do Rodrigo until August, I then think you have to wait longer than that to do the third signing, right? I don't think we're going to spend any sort of significant money on a third attacking signing if we're still pursuing Rodrigo, because you just have to leave that money. You have to leave the money for Rodrigo there in case you need it. So I do think this would happen later than Rodrigo. So again, it's not going to happen in July, but throughout that period of July and early August, targets are going to start disappearing. You know, one example, if Johan Bakayoko was an option, which we spoke about on that video previously, Dortmund now keeping a close eye on Johan Bakayoko and have confirmed their interest. You know, these players are going to start disappearing. Rooney Bargi, who I know spoke about in that video, hearing that he may well, I think he's close, or maybe, I actually haven't followed it, but he was definitely very close to moving to Barcelona. You know, these options will start disappearing. And so you need lots of them. You know, we need to be in a position where, okay, we've got 5, 6, 7 potentially of these options lined up going into that. And then the final thing, number 5, is I want to see us attack the preseason. Preseason starts in July. This is a big part of July. I don't want to see that many youth players playing, to be honest with you. As harsh as that is, and as much as I actually did enjoy seeing the likes of Nichols and Heaven and, of course, Miles Lewis-Skelly and Nwaneri last summer, if I actually look at what we need to go into the start of next season with, I want to see us target these games with proper lineups. Milan, Newcastle, Tottenham. I want to see this again. 22-23, the best start to a season that we had, where we'd made our signings early in Zinchenko and Jesus, and then we attacked those preseason games, and we looked fluid straight off the bat, and they grew, and we started the season incredibly well. And I don't think we've had that massively since. And of course, it's difficult when there are preseason tournaments in terms of international tournaments and stuff. And this is where I do think we've got the advantage this summer of not being in the Club World Cup. The players have had a long break. Let's hit the ground running. And I look at the fixtures that we have at the start of the season. This is what I'm saying. Our opening 6 games, United away, Leeds at home, Liverpool away, Forest at home, City at home, Newcastle away. That opening 6, if we can take, 15 or 16 points from that, you have an incredible start to the season under your belt. And maybe that's difficult. Like, maybe you end up taking 12, 13. But if you can push up to 15, 16 from that could be massive. But to do that, especially if you look at those fixtures on the right-hand side, Forest, City, Newcastle, in between those games, the Champions League fixtures will have started as well. We are going to need the depth of the squad to be at the level that we can rotate. And we can pick off teams like Manchester United, who will be doing more business than us and rebuilding this summer. Even Liverpool away. I feel like we can attack those games. But in order to do that, really, all of the previous 4 points I've made kind of need to be lined up. And going into the preseason games, I want to see Benjamin Sesko, if it's him, getting significant minutes. I accept maybe the left winger Rodrigo, you don't get to see it if that's the plan. If it's not the plan, and the plan is an Eze or something, again, I want to see them there. But we need to do it. So that's what I want to see. I'm excited, honestly, for the preseason games. And I do remember the feeling of excitement that it built amongst the fan base in 22-23. I want to see that again. So they're the 5 things that we need to do. I don't think it should be that difficult to do them, much as I have no idea what's actually happening internally. And I am given confidence by what Andrea Berta has managed to cook up so far. But I just don't want us to relax now. I don't want us to get into that period where the team are actually on the tour and we're still talking about Gyökeres and Sesko. Or Rodrigo actually now is off the table, so now we've pivoted to other options, but there's nothing really lined up. Like, we need to be ruthless. We need to be ruthless. And so, look, that's it. We'll see how many of those 5 happen. Maybe we'll come back to this video at the end of July and mark them out of 5 based on what they've done. But look, that is going to be the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do subscribe, like. If you want to join the Discord or anything like that, the links to that are down below. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's a Saturday. Have a lovely Sunday. I'm sure we will be back tomorrow, arguably, with a stream or another video. But until then, have a good weekend, and I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye.